In this video, we're going to look at the 3 reasons why marriages fail. And there are literally just 3 reasons why marriages fail. And the first, of course, is that you're not with the right person. I mean, it goes without saying the number of times you're counseling someone who has marital issues. And then you have to pause and ask yourself the question in your heart, like, how on earth did you even end up with this person? I mean, he beats me. How on earth did you end up with someone who beats you? Or he cheats and he goes up and down with different ladies. How did you end up with that kind of person? Because that is where everything begins. If you're not with the right person, then you can't expect to have the right marriage. Like the great Dr. Miles Monroe would say, an omelette is only as good as the eggs involved. So if you're with the wrong person or you didn't marry the right person for you, then it's automatic that you've just entered a living hell on earth. And of course, the second reason is just like it, you're not the right person. So many times we never think about that. We always just think this person, they had issues, all my exes were these, they were that. But have you ever stopped to consider that you're probably the problem? Likewise, if you're not the right person, then that relationship is not going to work. Because, for example, if you have someone who has a clear vision, a clear objectives, and their own perspective of life that you're pursuing, and you're not willing to share in that vision and that perspective, then you're not the right person for them. And if you try to force things, automatically you're going to have problems in that marriage or that relationship in the future. Believe it or not, as harsh as it might sound, motivational speaking has actually deceived people a lot, because there's actually such a thing as marrying your level, and that's one thing that the aristocrats in the past understood. And so if you weren't operating at the same level financially as a particular person, you were not a good fit for marriage. And likewise, not just financially, intellectually, spiritually. So the moment there is a serious discrepancy in any of those critical operational platforms in life, then you're definitely either with the wrong person or you are the wrong person. So you meet a young lady who has several PhDs or master's degrees, and she's so passionate about education and advancing her intellect, and all you have is your high school degree, and for some reason you think that is going to work out without you actually making the effort of compromise to grow your own intellect as well, whether it's through formal education like her or it's just through reading books. Automatically you're the wrong person for that lady, because eventually you're going to be intimidated by that excellence and that intellect and all the dreams and passions that she wants to pursue. Or for a lady, you meet a man who is quite conservative or traditional and has several kinds of expectations of what a perfect wife should be, whether it's being a stay-at-home mom or being more traditional in her roles, the way she takes care of her husband and her home. And you come with your progressive modern mindset, and then you think it's going to work out. No, you're bound to have conflicts, because automatically you're not the right person for that man. And the third reason why marriages fail is that you're not doing the right thing. So you may be the right person, you may be with the right person, but if you're not applying God's principles about how a proper marriage should function, then you're bound to have troubles in that marriage. What do the scriptures say that you have to do as far as tolerance is concerned, as far as forgiveness is concerned? What about submission? What about loving your wife? What about respect? What about providing? What about caring? What about going the extra mile for one another? What about parenting? Once you're not applying the right thing, then it doesn't matter whether you're the most perfect match in the world. That relationship, that marriage is still bound to have trouble. So there you go. Marriages fail because 1, you're not the right person. 2, you're not with the right person. And 3, you're not doing the right thing. But when you put all this together, it brings out perhaps the ultimate answer to why marriages really fail. When you compress all this, you realize one thing. That is, all problems that emerge in a marriage are visible before the marriage even begins. Or all problems that you encounter in your relationship, 99% of the time, there were signs and there were hints and there were red flags before you even got into them. But either we chose to ignore them, or we chose to downplay them, or we chose to just assume that they're going to work themselves out after we get married. Like Dr. Miles Monroe would say again, we see seem to have so much faith in that beautiful gown and that wonderful tuxedo that we think once you adorn those clothes, some kind of miracle or magic happens to your character, and whatever the cracks that we saw somehow go away. But that's not the case. Think about it this way. Marriage is one of perhaps the only institution where you're giving a certificate before you actually get into it. You only get certificates when you've completed a course. So if you're being given a certificate before you even engage the marriage, that means the assumption is you should have completed the course of marriage before you get married. So you don't start solving the problems and the red flags that you see in someone when you've married them. No, you solve them before, and if you've successfully handled those things, that's when you come to the altar and you're given a certificate to go and do what? Live happily ever after. But it's not the case for most people, because we don't solve the problems, we don't address any of it at the altar. We think the pastor does some kind of miracle and all those things just go away. We wish that was the case, but sadly it's not the case. A wonderful looking tuxedo wouldn't make him automatically quit porn overnight when you get married. That beautiful gown won't suddenly make her stop reaching out and interacting with her ex. And no, dear, the pastor's prayers wouldn't make him delete the phone numbers of all those other ladies. If he couldn't delete them before he has already been given the certificate, then he's not going to delete them after. So again, all problems, or we can say 99% of the problems that emerge in marriage were visible before the marriage. And if we understand how serious this is, then we understand why the apostles could tell Jesus, if that is the case, it's better not to get married. Literally, meaning you shouldn't get in there and get the certificate if you haven't completed the course. And the course isn't completed in marriage, the course is completed before the marriage. So you don't see all these red flags and you don't see all these cracks in someone's character, and somehow you just think, well, we're in love, or you just say, well, the relationship is still young, I don't want to address that now, it may hurt him or it may hurt her, we'll try to talk about it later. And later never comes, and then you get married, and then there is physical abuse, there is cheating, there is all these horrific things that somehow now you think a pastor or a therapist can help you through. Most of the times it's not necessarily the case, and it's actually reflected by the high rate of divorce we are seeing in our society today, because you can't separate the dirt in the eggs after you have already fried them. If you sense that the egg was defective, you had to do something about that egg before you fried it. The moment it's been fried, for the most part, it's usually too late. It takes a miracle. It takes a miracle. God does work miracles, and we have seen him rescue some marriages, but that's not the norm. That is not the way God intended it to be. God intended us to take responsibility and do the work before we even got in there, because I can guarantee you, if you actually commit yourself to doing that background work and making sure that this person is a believer, they're passionate about God, they have a good character, and they're actively working to build their character and to mend every crack and deal with every childhood trauma that they may have experienced, then you've already solved a major part of your problems in marriage. And it even gets better or multiplied if you do exactly the same for yourself, to see that you deal with all your childhood traumas and you deal with all your character issues and you commit yourself to be passionate about following God. Then the only thing you're actually left with is learning the right thing to do and doing it in your marriage. So it's really that simple, but because we have really turned it upside down, we kind of face a serious problem. So instead of having the horse before the cart, we have the cart before the horse, and that's exactly the experience of many people in marriages. Not because you're given the certificate before you start, that means that is when you're beginning to learn. Rather, it means you should have learned before you come and get your certificate. So that's it for this video. 3 reasons why marriages fail. Do you think there is another reason why marriages fail? Please share that in the comments below. I'll be happy to learn from you. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps us to keep creating content like this. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. A big thank you to our patrons for supporting us and helping this channel to keep creating content. You too can support this channel. The link is down below. I'm Bodas Jumesi from Wisdom for Dominion. Thank you so much for watching, and until the next video, stay blessed.